Welcome, I'm Natasha Hilbers and this is the She Served AU podcast. I am an Australian Army veteran, founder of She Served AU, and a voice for those whose service has too often been overlooked. In my podcast, I step beyond the ceremony and into truth, beyond the optics and into reform. The podcast speaks about women in defence, service animals, and the silent service, the kind that doesn't make headlines but carries weight long after the uniform comes off. Trigger warning. This is a space where we name MST, DV, FV, and systemic harm. It's a space for survivors, for spouses, for reservists, for families, for those who served and who were never meant to be reduced to a footnote. I will have real conversations. I will challenge policy where it fails. And I will hold space for stories that deserve dignities. Because service doesn't end when you hang up the uniform, and recognition should never depend on who is easiest to see. Strength, sacrifice, service, she served, not a footnote. This is Natasha Hilbers of She Served AU. She Served Episode 1, Purple Paws, Silent Service, Trigger Warning and Support. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge this episode references military sexual trauma MST, sexual assault SA, domestic and family violence DV, suicide, systemic harm within defence and veteran communities, my contribution to the Royal Commission into defence and veteran suicide. If any of these topics feel activating for you, please pause, take space and return when you feel ready. If you are a survivor, male or female, and you need support, you are not alone. The Anthena Project Australia is a defence-specific organisation supporting those impacted by MST, SA and DV within military communities. Their contact details are included in the notes below. Reaching out is not weakness. Silence does not have to be your burden. Acknowledgement of country. I'm recording today from Bunbury, Western Australia. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Wandari people of the Noongar Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I believe deeply in treading softly and listening deeply. On country, in community, in reform, strength does not require aggression, it requires conviction. Introduction. Who I am. Hello and welcome to She Served. My name is Natasha Hilbers. I'm a 12-year Army veteran. I'm the founder of She Served AU, a veteran-led advocacy and reform movement amplifying the voices of women and service animals in defence. I am the person behind Veteran Sandbox, Veteran Digital Address, Dexter's Policy, and She Spoke in Silence. I'm the author of Brave, From the Depths of Despair, and I also wrote the Ode to Australian Female Veterans. And this week I'm releasing a new song, Bravery and Betrayal of Dexter, under my name Natasha Hilbers Music, profile, in recognition of military working dogs and service animals in Australia. I am many things, but above all, I am a voice for the voiceless. I care about the silent service, strength, service, sacrifice, pride untold, grace untold. For John, the voice of the silent. I use hashtags not a footnote, silent service, and these are not slogans to me. They are deeply held beliefs. So what is She Served AU? She Served AU is a veteran-led movement amplifying the voices of women and service animals who have served, where silence ends and strength begins. It is a platform for truth, visibility, dignity and reform. Because service did not end with the uniform, it evolved. She Served AU is guided by 6 core values. Service, honouring every woman who served, seen or unseen. Strength, the resilience it takes to survive, speak and rise again. Sacrifice, acknowledging what was given, taken and rebuilt. Solidarity, standing shoulder to shoulder, never alone again. Sisterhood, connection beyond rank, uniform and role. And silence no more, breaking the unspoken code that too many voices kept buried. And it operates across 6 pillars. Domestic violence and family violence response within veteran communities and ESOs, advocacy for spouses and families, including superannuation reform and recognition of silent service of spouse. Survivors of MST, SA and DV, driving trauma-informed recovery and reform. She Spoke in Silence, Transforming Art into Healing. Service Animals, Pensions, Healthcare, Dignified Retirement for Four-Legged Veterans. Women in Service and Memory, Ensuring Women's Service is Foundational and Not Forgotten. She Served AU stands for Visibility, Dignity and Reform, because no one who served should be reduced to a footnote. Royal Commission and Reform. I contributed to the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide in two capacities, personally through my lived experience and collectively representing broader veteran community concerns. During that process, I successfully advocated for the terms of reference to expand so that LOEs, local observation elements, initially excluded under eligibility criteria, could submit their experiences. That mattered. It confirmed something I believe deeply. Structures can change, eligibility can evolve, and silence can be challenged. Purple Poppy Day. Beyond the photo. Purple Poppy Day honours the animals who served in war and conflict. I respect remembrance. Remembrance must lead to responsibility. If politicians are going to show up and pat a military working dog and smile for a photo and post about Purple Poppy Day, then they must also acknowledge what happens after service. Because if you pat the dog, you must ask, what does that dog have for the other 364 days of the year? What funds its medical care? Who supports its retirement? Who recognises the operational trauma? We cannot operate in annual optics. A ribbon is not reform. A photo is not policy. Patting a dog for your image is easy. Putting your money where your mouth is, that is leadership. If Purple Poppy Day means anything, it must extend into structural recognition. Dexter's policy. Military working dogs are not equipment. They deploy, they detect explosives, they guard, they absorb stress. They age with service-related injury. Yet administratively, they are categorised as equipment upon discharge. That must change. Dexter's policy calls for formal veteran recognition upon discharge, issuance of a purple card, a pension-backed lifetime veterinary care, recognition across Army, Air Force and Navy. If service equals sacrifice, then species should not determine dignity. I tread softly in my advocacy, but I stand firm in my belief. My music. I wrote Ode to Female Veterans because women's service must be written into history, not appended to it. I wrote Bravery and Betrayal of Dexter because loyalty deserves structural honour. That song is being released this week in recognition of military working dogs. Music is advocacy. Poetry is reform in another language. The 2026 mission. My mission for 2026 is clear. To move Purple Poppy Day from symbolism to substance. To secure purple card recognition and pension-backed care for military working dogs. And to address another structural exclusion. Army reservists who have not completed one day of full-time service are excluded from DVA entitlements under an eligibility criteria. 1 day. An administrative threshold that determines recognition. Reservists train, reservists serve, reservists sacrifice employment continuity, yet entitlement can hinge on a technicality. That is not aligned with the spirit of service. As part of my 2026 mission, I will advocate for recognition and purple card issue for service animals, removal of the 1 day full-time service, eligibility, gatekeeping for reservists, because service is not measured solely in paperwork. Silent service, human or animal, deserves structural fairness. My final words. If anything discussed today has touched something personal for you, please reach out. The Anthena Project Australia details are in the notes below. You are not alone. I am Natasha Hilbers, Army veteran, founder of She Served AU, creator of the Veteran Sandbox, Veteran Digital Address, Dexter's Policy, and She Spoke in Silence. I'm an author, a songwriter, and an advocate. But above all, I am a voice for the silent. Strength, sacrifice, service, she served. Not a footnote. And in 2026, we forge on, treading softly, standing firmly, and building reform that lasts beyond the photo. The incredible shout out. Before I close out, I want to introduce something special. At the end of each She Served episode, I'll be giving a shout out to what I call the Incredibles, individuals and organisations in the veteran space doing real work. The quiet work, the consistent work, the work that doesn't always make the headlines but changes lives. This week's shout out goes to Vespia, the Anthena Project Australia, Her Story, Wandering Warriors, Vigil Australia, Yoga with Carney, the Resilience Shield, Australian Veteran Arts Museum, and Hudson Road Family Centre. Thank you for what you do in the veteran space and family space. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for standing up in the gaps. If you're listening and you know someone doing incredible work in the veteran community, reach out, let me know. I'd love to put a spotlight on them in future episodes. Because reform is not built alone. It's built in a community. And together, we forge on. Thank you. I'm Natasha Hilbers, and this is the She Served podcast.